So a two-part question. The first being the presence of mortal or physical beings elsewhere in the universe, life on other planets or other places. And the second being, do our souls travel to other parts when they're no longer with our bodies? In response to the first question, we can only guess from what science tells us, but we also can guess based on what common sense tells us. Year after year after year, our universe keeps expanding. Where we thought the universe ended 20 or 25 years ago, now we know beyond that there's more. As our methods of discovery get better, our telescopes get better, our different technology gets better, we're able to see more and more, and we therefore discover more and more, and the universe seems to be expanding. The carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen that makes up our bodies, the world we live in, it seems to me that it would be really, really arrogant, blind, to assume that we were the only place in the entire universe where those elements became life. It certainly makes us feel more important and sounds nice. But my instinct from even just science says that chances are there's life in other places. Exactly what it looks like, we don't know. If you look at the surface of the ocean, you'd think there was no life there. It's not until you go deep into the ocean that we realize, oh my God, there's actually all kinds of wonderful life here. And then we used to think, well, there was only life to a certain depth. And then when you got deeper, where they had all the thermal springs, it was too hot, there couldn't be life there. Now they know actually there's life there too. But the life that's able to live on the thermal springs, thousands and thousands and thousands of feet deep in the ocean, where there's no light at all, and the life that's able to live toward the surface of the ocean, and the life that's able to live out of the ocean, are going to be different. And in the same way, chances are that in different spots of the universe, that life is going to be different. But absolutely, I think that it would be beyond egocentric of us to think that in the vast universe and the vast creation and all of these elements, that we are the only ones where the elements have managed to combine into that which we call life. In terms of the second question, do our souls go someplace else? Travel. The dilemma with the question is that the question implies that the soul exists in one spot, like my body exists, and that therefore it could move from over here to over there. And really what you're asking is, does it need the body to be able to move, or once it no longer has a body, can the soul also move? But the very premise of that is the assumption that the soul is also some sort of finite thing. And one minute it's over here, and then assuming it can move, at another point it's over there, and assuming it can still move, at another point it would be over there. Whereas actually, that's not how the soul is. The soul that we have is actually part of and not separate from the divine universe. We get into concepts of the Atma and Jivatma, the supreme soul, the individual soul, the concept, for example, of the sun reflecting into all sorts of different vessels, some wider than others, some narrower than others, some with more water, some with less water. And the reflection that you're going to see of the sun in each of these vessels is slightly different based on the size of the vessel, the shape of the vessel, the color of the vessel, how much water there is in the vessel. But the sun is actually one. And so it would be like saying that reflection, if you broke the vessel, could the reflection travel from one spot to another spot? And so you see the problem with the question itself, because the minute that the vessel is broken, there's no longer any distinction between the reflection and the sun it's reflecting. So there's no longer any place for it to go. It's only a separate reflection because it's in a vessel. Another way to think about it, I have a cup, let's say. And there's air in my cup, just like there's air outside. Now I break my glass. What's happened to the air inside my glass? Can it travel someplace? Well, in theory, possibly, but in practice, no, because the minute that the vessel that kept it separate from the air around it has been broken, there's no longer a distinction between the air that was in my vessel and the air that's outside of it. It's only being in the vessel that has kept it separate from the rest of it. So it's not that the soul travels. It's that the soul is in a vessel, which we call a body, for a temporary period of time, for a variety of different reasons, to fulfill a variety of different karmas or tasks or lessons or however we like to think about it. But when it's no longer in that body, then ultimately it merges back with the rest of the soul, the rest of existence. And of course, that's a simplistic way of explaining it, because there's actually an entire body of literature that talks about, for example, the specific journey that a soul goes on right after death. But without getting into really esoteric parts of that, the general fundamental principle is that this soul is separate from the Supreme Soul only as long as it's in this body. When the body is no longer there, the soul now merges back into the infinite Supreme Soul from which it came to begin with.